Introducing Billboard Pal, the mobile billboard. With your Billboard Pal, you can advertise anywhere, anytime. Just find your target audience and make unlimited connections. Billboard Pal makes advertising fun and affordable. Stand out from the crowd. Your future customers are ready to meet you.
Content over everything.
I believe.
Take the lens cap off.
You have to take the lens cap off. How long have you been doing this? What? Is he paying? Are you getting paid for this? No, you better not be paying it. Thanks. Thanks. That's the best thank you. But Kalam, and anyway, look, Kalam, we as a people need to move to the next level. As in, and the camera's here now, yeah, and it causes people to be disingenuous. That's why I've tried my best, yeah.
That's good.
I've tried my best to.
I go and cook for the missus.
Yeah, cook for me as well, please.
Hey, no, man, you know you
I can't cook, bro.
That's fine.
Freelancing.
Okay.
Like the brother, yeah, bless him. You know, take a picture of him. No, we've been building from the moment that I've been speaking to him. He said his points that I've agreed, sometimes we disagreed. But at the end of the day, it's all love. Kalam comes from the same ends, yeah, where he has Muslims. And he has to go back to those Muslims who he's good with. And he has family members who he's good with. Why destroy the vibes for hits on your channel? Now, I was saying that newspapers can't be sold unless Muslims are on the front page. It's the same with YouTube videos. I know the capital that Islam or deriding Islam brings to channel. But he has to understand the wedge he's put in between Muslims and non-Muslims, or blacks more particular, blacks and Arabs. Because this whole narrative about Arab slave, this is despicable. Not every Arab is responsible, like not every black person is a thug, or not every white person is a pig, and not every Asian person is a terrorist. And he knows he's a smart man. He knows. So why are you doing this?
Okay.
As in, my advice to you, as in, I don't want to rebuttal.
Yeah.
My verse for anything that is worth is Kalam. Really calibrate yourself and think about what damage you're doing on the grade. I would have gone to the brother and said, you know, he's a chemist. Don't go away.
Before you continue though.
I hope you've listened. One second. Not to it.
Is that? So fantastic.
I want to catch up.
Yeah.
No, why do you put that face? It's another thing. Why?
Okay,
You're a grown man.
Can I continue? Because you spoken, but you addressed a lot of things. I want to just address them things.
Man, and you're a grown man.
It's because he hasn't been here for 1 year.
Why?
He's got so much to say. Where you been, Hamza?
How do you know?
Where you been, Hamza?
Look,
I just want to quickly just the things.
One thing.
Okay, go on.
One more thing.
You, Kalam, are a grown-ass man.
That's right.
And you have the ability to overlook a person's dispute with you.
Yep.
Why not be the stronger person instead of thinking about channel hits and there's no doubt in your mind that is a part. Everyone knows. Why don't you go to your brother and say, you know, we beefed, we made mistake, this is the nature of the park. We are men, you know, we speak loud, we push. This is how men do. We have aggression. That's why most men are in, like a lot of men are in prison. Why? Because the aggression is tightly close to the Y chromosome. Why don't you have the strength to go to your brother and just make amends?
Okay, so there's three things that you made. Sorry? Yeah, there's three things that you made mention to, and I want to make sure I address them, okay? Are we speaking? Alright. So the first thing that you addressed was to do with you know, Islam sells basically, and you know, monetization, hits, and all them things there. I've previously shown on my channel, that when I speak about Islam, you know what happens to my channel? It gets demonetized. You see, demonetized, you know, little black thing on there to tell me that I may be in trouble every single time I speak about Islam. You got Muslims that come onto the channel and simply hit like negative, bad comments, report my channel. I have to go through a process of fighting those things there. I don't make money, off Islamic videos. If you look onto my channel, and you see the videos that I've made that are popping better than Speaker's Corner, when I'm outside of Speaker's Corner, the stuff that's spoken about, the ones that are more popular are the ones that are non-Islamic related. So I just want to scratch out your mentality that I'm doing this for the hits. I'm doing this to make money. I'm not making money.
I'm not making money
off this, trust me. All right,
respect
hold on.
on that
No. There's three. You spoke for a long time.
Go on,
the
Kalam.
second
But
thing.
don't make it into. There's no need to make it into.
He hasn't seen you for a year, so he's got a lot to say.
He's got energy.
He's got a lot to
he's
say
got
to you.
But there's no need for Kalam. This is what I mean.
Yeah, I know,
Why
but
are we
I
not
wanna-
vibing? Why are we
We
debating?
are vibing. We are vibing. There was a second thing that I wanted to get across
So
though.
the first was newspaper Islam on the channel. We'll address that.
Okay. The second thing that you said, now you made me. I've lost my mind now.
It's alright. If you
No.
don't have
I
answer-
want to make sure I address everything.
Okay,
Everything.
We've got some time here. Listen, Kalam, yeah?
No, he hasn't finished. Let him
He's
finish.
forgotten.
No, wait a minute. Kalam.
Okay. Yeah. The hate for no.
Second point you were going to
Was it
address.
hate for Islam? I can't remember what the second point was now. Like,
Yeah,
it
it's
went on for too long.
About divisions and stuff.
Look, the brother, like I said, look, Kalam, me and you can vibe, and we again we vibe. Jay and me vibe. We're all from the same ends. People in America or outside London.
Oh,
don't-
that was it. No, stop. You were talking about racism and
press.
Arabs and so
Stop the
forth, yeah?
presses.
And
Go
me,
on.
like, prior to Adnan Rashid calling me out, calling me a racist, I was not at Speaker's Corner being vocal and being the man that speaks. That wasn't me. I was the man behind the camera. Somebody said to me that I'm a racist, I'm a black supremacist, and I said, yo, like, how are you gonna say that to me of all people? And then he also issued me a challenge to say, oh, show me other Islamic scholars that are racist. I said, alright, cool, let me show you this, right? I done a whole one video actually, and showed various different sources of Islamic scholars being racist. Now I'm the bad guy. Now I'm Chun Li. You know the way he's there. Am I the bad? Nicki Minaj made a song. Now I'm the bad guy. You see what I'm
I
saying?
don't watch music.
I know you don't watch it. You all know. So now I'm the bad guy for simply addressing something that somebody said to me. Somebody called me a racist, and I'm showing you that I'm not a racist. Somebody said that you can't find any other Islamic
Remember
scholars that have been racist. I said, here you go, there's Islamic scholars that are racist.
No.
But now I'm the
Kalam,
bad guy
Kalam,
for just
Kalam,
talking.
Kalam.
I think a lot of people fear an intelligent black man.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's true though. It's true though. I actually
They
think a
don't
lot
get
of
it.
people
They don't get it. You're a
One
modern day
second, Kalam,
philosopher.
Trust me.
Modern
look
day.
at this modern day philosophy. Look,
It was
No.
okay. It was okay.
I just
prior-
branded him that right now. I just did that.
It was okay.
I've never
yeah?
done that before.
It was okay when
Never
I was
done that
holding the
before.
camera, I kept my mouth quiet.
Yeah,
You
look.
see what I'm saying? It was okay. Kalam's a good guy. Ah, we love him.
this is-
Alhamdulillah.
this-
But the
Jay,
moment
this is
you
what
ask
I'm
me a
saying.
question to speak, I speak. It's not a problem.
But this is what I'm
God
saying.
damn.
Yeah? Okay,
Yeah, I'm finished. I'm finished.
What I'm saying is what you become is not what you should have become. You're from the ends. People outside of London don't understand that we come from a low socio-economical background, the sons of immigrants who live differently from the other. You and me, at the end of the day, when Hyde Park's gone and the camera's gone, what's your good name?
Raul.
Raul stops filming, we go back to the ends. His family's got Muslims in it. Why are you just putting these seeds of hate for your family against your Muslim? What do you gain? You're saying that you're not gaining money. There's no way you can't say in the beginning you must have had some twinkling. People aren't dumb. People aren't dumb. You know, you've been going after Islam again and again with some nonsense argumentation sometimes. Yeah, and you know it as well.
Give an example.
You're sourcing sometimes, yeah, like
An example.
yeah, sure. Language, and I don't want to go off this. For example, sometimes he tries to make comparisons between one language in Arabic to another language. This is known as pseudo-scientific language comparison. Two cognates in language are not said to come from the same genealogical tree in terms of language because they sound the same. But we've seen him do that many times before. There's many other examples which I can give you, but this is going to take a longer
Said that, but give the
discussion.
example of that. What I said.
The people are aware, if you go to any video, where Kalam speaks about language, you see this problem. The word kafir, you see this problem. Anyway, the point is I don't want to stray, and you call it Kalam, you're a smart man. Don't listen to what I'm saying in order to just rebuke. This is not what communication is, yeah? I wasn't doing this talking to you, I was talking off camera to you.
100%.
You are from the end. You go to people like me.
Yes.
Why can't we just live normally like how we live?
We do.
Nah, Kalam.
The problem. No, shall I tell you what the problem is? The problem is, yeah.
With that channel, yeah?
Can I show you something?
Yeah,
The
sure.
problem
For
is-
that channel, for that channel, what you've done is almost sold your soul, and everyone recognizes that. Now, I don't mean that disrespectfully, Kalam, yeah? But please, you have to do introspection, looking within yourself and see what were my main reasons to do this. Islam sells in the newspapers like nothing. It may not sell on your channel, but it definitely sells for Ian Hersey, it sells for Tommy Robinson, it sells for... People aren't stupid. We spoke about anti-Islamic rhetoric. It becomes like a hot topic. What are the main three things in Europe that they like talking about? Islam, immigration. I always forget the third thing, but Islam is always there. If there's a person wearing a niqab, what the hell has she got to do with you? If there's a minaret on a masjid, the tall tower, what the hell has that got to do with you? How does that affect you? You know, I'm coming here. I see people like you in the ends. But when you're writing videos or publishing videos against Islam, it's putting an image, whether you know, and I'm sure you do know, in the heads of Muslims, because anyone who goes onto Titans TV will see Muslim this, you know, Muslim this, Muslim. You can't deny this. So what's that telling me from abroad? Why?
May I respond?
Yeah, well, one last sentence. Be better than that, Kalam.
Okay, so I've realized that a lot of my Muslim audience, and I apologize for Muslim audience, it seems as though a lot of them are emotional rather than being conscious, or a lot of them emotional rather than being critical. So we put up these videos criticizing a religion or criticizing an ideology or criticizing a particular point within inside of the religion, and people damn near lose their minds emotionally. They respond like, Kalam, you did this, you did that, you did this, you did that. I'm like, okay, all right, you said all of that. Now tell me exactly what point within inside of the video you disagreed with. And the majority of the time, nobody can, because they're moving off emotions rather than rationally looking at the points that Kalam is making and trying to dissect it or refute the things I'm saying. Majority of the times, the things I'm saying, I'm always sourcing it. Everybody knows when it comes to my channel, you're coming to be educated. You're going to see sources, citations, you're going to see books upon encyclopedias, articles and journals and so forth. I provide the evidence. I'm not speaking, I'm not simply speaking like a lot of people do, passionately, yes, and da-da-da. No. I simply say, yo, no. Point 1, point 2, point 3, point 4, point 5, conclusion. Make your own mind up. That's what I do.
Yeah, that's nice. That's really, really, really nice. But these facts, sourcing matters. You went to university. Sourcing matters. References matters. When you're quoting from Ibn Ishaq and Ibn Hisham, which he knows he uses, and this he wants tangible evidence. I'm giving him one. When you refer to Hisham, Ishaq, you're aware that in their forward they explain their writing as historians, not muhaddithin. They don't scrutinize, one second, they don't scrutinize the narrations. So they put in anything, what he said. So you've heard this, okay, cool, I'm going to compile the book like this. But he poses it as, the lady said, facts. But it's not facts. That's history and past are two different things. Past is all that happened before now. History is what can be captured before what happened now. The historical graphical tools we have are limited. He knows that. Anyway, it escaped the point that I made, is that why is Kalam doing this? It's continuously Islam, 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 Islam. Yeah, there's no building. You know, he came to the park talking about building. I agree with him. That's a good philosophy. You know, we are in the ends together at the end of the day. People outside London don't understand this. We're on the same low socio-economical background, but people are making divides from us as if we haven't. Each one touch. It's not like we haven't had enough. So why are you pitting me against you? Automatically, I have to pull down your barrier that I'm anti-black or I'm anti-Arab like this. We don't need this. We need construction. Look at I saw some girl outside Stratford.
Are you saying that we can't have a criticism about you? No. Just because you're supposed to be together?
No. There's a difference between criticism.
Yes?
Yeah. There's a difference between criticism and mocking, my brother. You know, there's certain things I was telling you.
It's not the same thing.
No, criticism.
Sorry, 1 second.
It doesn't matter how much you're mocked, because I'm sure that the Prophet, peace be upon him, was mocked far more than a lot of people, or perhaps you are, and he didn't get the chip on his shoulder and react to people. He just carried on positively behaving the way that he should have.
What's your good name?
Khaba.
Okay, this is where I'm making this distinction. There's mocking and there is criticism. He's posing he's mocking as criticism is different. If you see the language being employed, I was speaking to the brother, there's certain connotations in language which are unspoken, even intonations, paralinguistic, the intonation. If I say, for example, okay lady, example, look at your face. Why? Because lady is a pejorative. I've used it in such a way to be condescending to you. I don't need to. I need to be nice. If I've got something to say against you, I say it. Now mocking is something different. I have the right to swear to the brother's face, but I have the legal and moral right the moral right rather, not to do it. My moral right supersedes my legal right to call the brother's name. This is a phony thing which the far right have been exercising. I'm gonna come to a brother and start saying, for example, we've heard arguments, anti-black arguments. I would never voice that. Why? Because I don't want to weaponize the people that are against the people who already been struggling. But he seems to be okay with that. There's a difference between mocking and criticizing. Critique. What's his name? Gary does it all the time. Gary does it in a funny way. His comical value is more important than his content value. And everyone finds him lovable. Kalam started off nice and everyone had respect with him, sir. And then what happened is like, if you have been in YouTube comments, it overtakes you. A certain kind of negative.
To watch the videos and don't read the comments.
Don't partake in it. Yes. Sister, I almost done it.
I read it, you put them through,
Yeah, exactly. And there's going to be racist comments. There's going to be threats.
Everything.
I don't know a man in London that has been from the ends has been told, I'm going to kill you, blood. I don't know. This is the natural part of our language. But people outside London or different classes don't understand it. What they see is he's crying about being a victim of threat of death, knowing that it's an invalid kind of threat. This is the nature of YouTube online threats. It means nothing. I don't need to be so damn precious. The brother told me he's going to punch me in the face down there, yeah? I told the brother, brother, look, come down to the speaker's corner. I'm sorry if I offended you. Respect. And him and me had a good relationship. I need to get past all this negativity, and these channels are responsible. What's your good name again?
Raul.
Raul needs to paint us in a positive light. One second.
You're saying that they're responsible. Even the colonial powers couldn't do something unless we allow it. So you can pit somebody against somebody else till you allow that to get between you.
So
nothing else makes a difference.
Okay, so great. You spoke about the colonial powers. Have you read about colonial?
It's just like pornography. You can have. Do you know what? It's what's inside. And men say, well, you know what? She was dressed the way that she was. Well, actually, you're able to control yourself. So it's all about your own responsibility.
There's more depth to this discussion. Do you know how strongly attached?
Of course there is, but you're just saying these.
No, you haven't. Trust me, sister, as in I've not heard all of what you have to say. You've not ordered all of what I have to say. Respectfully. And even the concept where feminists say that men and the gays, they don't understand men. The natural construction of men. One second, sister. One second, sister. Men's sexuality is strongly attached to their visual. Did you know that?
Oh,
that's why.
No.
So the way they see women.
If you want to talk like a Muslim, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your God, tells you to lower your gaze. Your God tells you to fast and control yourself. He doesn't say, you know what you've got? You're just the way that you are. I made you as a man, and you have this sexuality. Even the 4 wives is just a load of rubbish.
Yeah, astaghfirullah. Like saying this kind of language, it's not critical. Like I say, but to discuss it.
It's entitled.
That is the sisters read it in a certain way. No scholar would agree with her.
Oh, because
now why is it? Now, this is the thing. Now why would she come up with that reading? Now what if I were to say something similar about women, that women are like this, and it's from the Quran, and no scholar says it. You see, these scholars, they spend their life immersed in the text. One second, sister, yeah? I'm telling you now, feminism, what it has brought, and this has become a different topic, yeah? It has broken the family structure. 80% of criminals,
family structure that men have created.
One second. This new attempt, I didn't want to get into feminism,
Islam is
the feminism.
Islam is feminist.
Sure.
Because it gives women rights. The rights that Muslim men have taken away and decided how women are supposed to be.
Okay, how have I oppressed you? You pitted me on this side.
I'm saying you're just saying to me about scholars.
No,
how many women scholars have you listened to? We've got men constantly saying, this is what Islam is, this is what Islam is. Well, ask a woman who totally believes in God.
Yeah, sure.
And
Akram
Muhammad.
Akram, do you know Akram
Nadwi is probably the only one who does.
Okay, so don't dismiss it. It's not just him, okay? Akram Nadwi is a scholar. I didn't want to get into feminism, but the sister wants to speak about him. We need to return to the first topic, but I want to speak to you about that. Akram Nadwi, he went on to write a book, 1 volume about the women in Islam. The women in Islam. He ended up writing 30 volumes. 30 volumes.
And tell me
about
why he said the women weren't in the book till he did.
she said, what scholars do I listen? All I need to say is Aisha radiallahu anha.
What's that?
You know, she is one of the most prolific narrators of hadith. Muslims don't disrespect it. It's that we sometimes absorb a Western ideology.
You
One second.
quote Aisha and say how wonderful she was, I'm not
You see,
Muslim
you say
men
you.
still behave the way they'll say, oh yeah, Aisha was wonderful, but their lives do not show the same
Okay, agreed. I'm not
open-minded
disagreeing.
attitude. And you talk about Sheikh Akram. Ask Sheikh Akram why he's had to write the book he's had to write, why it ended up as so many volumes.
I agree with you.
Because along the way, somehow the same scholars that used to listen to Aisha, what happened along the way that there wasn't a single woman in the story?
Where have I described?
Not a single woman in the
what's your
history.
name again?
Father.
Father. You're taking offense because I'm asking your name. You would have seen that I never once disagreed with Father. I never disagreed with you. Yes, there is an element. Sorry? You know, I didn't interrupt you.
You're also very clever with your words. You're criticizing
Would you like me to be
else.
dumb with my words? No, exactly. So allow me then, please.
I
Yeah.
didn't say that you actually
But you're
disagreed.
getting upset. I can see the
No,
faces.
she's just
No, I'm
passionate.
just
She's
trying to
passionate
say
about
to you.
it.
Don't
Try and dumb
put
it
me on
down
the
a little
side.
bit.
No, Islam, it needs some changes here and there, yeah?
Islam
It's-
doesn't. Islam doesn't need changes.
If you stop me every sentence, I'm not going to get anywhere.
Interpretation by men.
Oh,
Because
finish
they
what you
don't
said.
like listening to what women have to say. They just tell them that they're disobedient, or they've got it all wrong, or they're listening to the Western. Well, you know, there are women who believe in God, completely believe in God, and believe that Muhammad was the last messenger, believe the whole thing, but they just don't accept the structure that we've got right now that's been created by men.
Okay, now this is a typical feminist argument, yeah? And agree with you certain points, but what you're trying to do is, notice you've interrupted me many times, yeah? Many times. I didn't interrupt you, sister. With respect, yeah? I understand. I'm not trying to be constant, forgive me. I'm not trying to be smart with my words to have one over you. Islam, in terms of manliness, yeah, and how they approach their women, like everyone else, the domestic violence within every community needs addressing. It's not particular for Muslims. For Muslims, we expect a higher standard. We ourselves should live and abide by a higher standard. I agree on you with that point of view. But then you have to understand what third wave feminism came with, sister. And it seems like you're attracted to third wave. No, I just need to address what you said.
Yeah. God, no.
That's
The
so
reason I'm
rude.
saying it's not rude. It's just that you've caught up on first you talked about feminism, then sexuality, that men are made differently. But you're saying you haven't disagreed with me. Wait, no. You're changing it because it started off with the other gentleman who was standing here and he was talking, and you were saying, well, we shouldn't be criticised. It's negative criticism. Well, what I'm trying to say is you've just gone round in circles. It doesn't matter who criticises you. Perhaps if Muslims started behaving in a different way, they wouldn't get the criticism they get. So it's about sorting out your own house. So all these issues about domestic violence and how this is happening,
Yep,
well, perhaps if we sorted that out, we might
Which community
be
would you
able to
say is a
handle-
role model for
That's
this?
That's got nothing
No,
to
I'm
do
asking
with-
you. I'm asking you. It's not the non-sequitur.
Okay.
I'm asking
Okay.
you because you're beating and deriding Muslims. Now I want to know. Hear me one second.
No.
One second, sister. Please, you have to allow me to ask the question. And this is how. Muslims are always ridiculed, and same thing happened to other minorities in the past. We were told that these ones were salacious, sexualized. When Europeans or Orientalists went over, and the term white in the Orientalist view, it meant something very narrow. A certain class received pronunciation. Many things. The Irish were not classed as white. The Greeks, Armenians, and everything. So when we talk about white colonialists, that went over to other countries and saw, for example, in Africa, they saw that their dress style was different. They didn't understand it. What did they say these women were? They say they were salacious. They were sexualized. And then what happened? This narrative continued. The name of the character, before it was called Jezebel. You had other ones, You had
Madame.
same thing. You have the Sambo, you had all of these entertainment guy, but these names have changed, but the characters have been maintained. What do we have now? We have players, we're told that the certain communities are only good for basketball and football. You can't be doctors, of course not. That's way and beyond you. Why?
You're going off the track.
No,
there.
sister.
You're not actually
Yeah, we are
answering the
talking
question.
I don't mean to be rude, but you're getting frustrated to the point you don't let me
Oh
speak.
no, I'm not frustrated. It's just that I've got to go as well.
I'm not, no offense, sister, but I'm here for some time. If you don't have patience to have a good discussion, you should not be here with me.
I know, but we can go through the
Now,
whole
third wave
history of it.
feminism, yeah? This is not what our original discussion was. Yeah? I have many qualms, like many people. Men aren't even marrying feminists no more. Why? It's called the sexist in the academic circle because women are trying to take the roles of men. But this is a different discussion. It came from colonization, and that's the discussion I just addressed with her. But prior to that, we were talking about Muslims having issues in their house, just as any other community has problems in their house. And yes, men is one of the issues that we need to look at. We definitely need to try harder in our conduct, not just Muslims. No,
One and one should bring a balance.
You're not.
No, I'm not.
It's good. Congratulations.
No, you don't have to be so patronising. The fact is, you told me I was, and I just said I'm not.
No, I say this rhetoric of third wave.
You did say it.
So
You
let me
said it
recant it.
clearly.
No problem. In speech, we say things, especially when emotion. We don't have to hold on to that belief. We can recant it and say sorry. That's not what I meant.
Yeah, so you wouldn't need to worry about how much Islam is criticised, how many people have a go at it, because Muhammad had things thrown at him. He didn't worry about it, because he just looked at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and carried on. Because you've stood here complaining about...
You see, for those who know me, realize that I can have these decent discussions. Yeah? Sorry, sister, like I said, I wouldn't judge you on one discussion. I think it's wrong. Me personally, I don't think you should do that.
No, I'm
sister,
not judging you.
But you said you standing there saying that Muslims can't get criticism.
I'm commenting
I've
on what you
spoken to
said.
Rob as in very, about atheism, where he seeks critique
I'm
Islam.
commenting on what I have heard, and you were just saying it's unfair that the Muslims are being criticised, and no matter where you live, Muslims. Let them get on with it.
May I show you what we were talking about?
We know there's an agenda.
May I show you what we were speaking about? We're speaking about a channel which continuously speaks about Islam, nothing else. This is my topic that I would like to. I don't have compelled speech for you.
Shall we bring him back in?
I don't tell you what you must speak about. I don't have a problem with him critiquing and talking about this hadith and the salaf. I have no issue with that. I enjoy it. That's why I'm there. But the thing is, a person cannot jump in a conversation and say you are like X, Y, Z. When I speak to Kalam, and then Kalam went away about how his channel is only focused on Islamic critique. Now, Islamic critique sells papers.
Hey, welcome back, Kalam.
I'm back, everybody.
Welcome back.
Hey.
But yeah, look, I don't know if you're sorry. I just got to stop
They just
that.
told me I could join in.
You can, of course.
No, of course you can. Of course you can.
But you know what? You know the
Of course you can.
unfortunate
No
thing is,
problem.
unfortunate thing is that we bring too much emotion to the table. As I have to love you as a person. I'm not saying that to be soppy. Be passionate, and I respect that. And even if we disagree, at the end of the day, I should still be respectful to you. I know you're rolling your eyes.
What are you doing? Is this a program that you're doing?
Oh, you have to speak to them. This is not a program.
What's your channel?
Oh, Titans TV.
What channel is that?
Titans TV. So Titans TV. If you haven't already subscribed, hit the subscribe button for Titans TV.
Content of everything.
Trust me.
Go on.
Skydive film.
If you wanted to have a conversation, we go and have a chat.
I'm good. You know, the thing is, with these kind of forced, inorganic conversations, I never know where to start.
Okay.
How are you anyway?
So you're finished with me, right?
No.
Sure, like, so I can
It's
go.
like you know what's that thing where you speak to one person and then you have to speak to another.
See, everybody wants to get a piece of Hamza, you know?
It's been a while
We all
that
love
I've been
Hamza.
here.
Okay.
Yeah, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. You're explain who you are.
Well, I'm Phil, and I have probably people who know me, I have a YouTube channel, and I've interviewed a lot of the world's famous cosmologists, including Stephen Hawking, Skydive Phil, and I've interviewed him about models of cosmology and competing models about what happened at the Big Bang.
Yeah.
Because we don't.
You're up there in terms of your literature. As in you are well read. You are someone who is well read,
yeah,
right?
a bit.
Yeah.
I think part of why Phil comes here.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But what I want to say
You don't
is,
get positive reinforcement in society, you know? Unfortunate thing is
Thank you.
we never say things which are polite. So
thank you very much. That's very
I
kind.
Tell him all the
learned
time,
that.
don't worry.
But what I want to say is that some of the arguments that you hear in Speaker's Corner about science they're misquoting the scientists.
Yeah.
So I have actually gone and interviewed these scientists and got what they actually say. And they're very different to what a lot of the both Muslim and Christian apologists say what they say. You know,
May
they're
I
saying
ask you
something
one
very
question,
different.
just to
go
cut
ahead.
to the crux of the
Sure.
discussion?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because we've spoken about
Yeah.
cosmology, but it gets
Okay.
to a point where I know my limitations.
Okay,
yeah?
sure.
And
We
it'll
all
be
have
farcical.
limitations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as in even you in your discipline, while you're up there, it's
Yeah.
changing every day. I'm sure I heard this from you, but perhaps you
Go
can
ahead.
clarify.
Yeah.
Can science disprove God?
Well, it depends what you mean by disprove. It depends what you mean by God. I don't think. It depends what you mean by God.
Let's say external.
And it depends
influence.
what you mean by disprove. So I think generally the basic.
Sorry, can I just feel? Is it a stupid question? This question is one of the most oldest questions in society. Since humans have been around, it's been the most pertinent question, the value of a man's life. So I don't think it's a stupid question.
I'll qualify why I said that. Because you are asking somebody to disprove something that
No, I've
nobody
asked him
yet
that.
has proved
Okay,
exists.
okay. So I never
how can
asked
you-
him that.
You did. You
No, I
said, "Does
didn't.
science
I
prove
said,
this?"
does science, and I said him.
Trust me, they'll get in
And science.
Quote me properly.
Okay. So
Okay.
my opinion
But
is
yes,
this.
so it's not a stupid question.
It-
Many people think that science can disprove God, and thank you for, that was admission on your side.
Let's listen to what Phil's got to
It's-
say.
I think
But we
it-
have to refrain from being so nasty to each other. I know you never meant it.
I meant absurd.
Whatever it may be. What's your name? What's your good name?
My name.
Your good name.
Good name.
Your good name.
I've only got one name. Good name.
And my name is Hamza. It's a pleasure.
Okay, Hamza, can I try and answer that? I think if you just like generally, is there a God? Yeah, I don't think science can disprove the general notion of God. However, I know because it depends what you mean by disprove. So some people use the word proof colloquially, just like is there evidence or not, is there evidence for or against. Some people mean it in a mathematical sense, like a sort of logical proof. So it depends on what you mean by these different concepts. So, for example, if you think that by God you mean something like a particular narrative about God, then we can look at the evidence and say the evidence is against that. Yeah, and if you mean disproof by just showing evidence against, then I think yes, that's sort of possible. But if you just mean in sort of a mathematical proof that an abstract concept is false, then I don't think science. What science does is investigates the world, and what it does is it compares competing hypotheses.
It investigates
and
the natural world.
Yes, but anything that interacts with the natural world, then science can investigate that.
It can attempt to, but it's very difficult because
of course, there's lots of things that are difficult.
Scientism. There's no point in me telling you. I feel shy to tell you. It's better elucidate to the people what is scientism.
Well, I guess scientism is a view that science can. There's different definitions of science. I mean, scientism. Again, these words, you have to be very careful with words because when you look up a word in a dictionary, there's not usually one definition. There's usually multiple definitions. So I think some people understand.
Give us a generic.
Well, I think some people
definition.
understand scientism as a view that science can answer sort of all questions, and I think that's false. There are questions about literature that science isn't going to answer. Okay, but however, having said that, there are certain types of questions that science can address. So whether things and those sorts of questions as what things interact with the world, that is open to scientific investigation. And what about the history of the world? So if a religious book starts to talk about what happened in the history of the world, science can address that and say, yes, that is false or that is true in terms of the evidence supports it or the evidence is against it.
May I just jump in there? What I was trying to point out is scientism, it comes with its limitations. Sometimes many people aren't in the admission of that. Yeah. Likewise, everything else has its limitation. History has its limitation. I spoke before, explained the difference between past, because you mentioned history now. There's a difference between the past and history.
Right.
Past is all the events that took place before now. History is that which we can prove. Because of historiographical.
Well, what do you mean by prove?
To a certain degree, looking at evidence and extrapolating data.
I mean, to me, history is just the study of things that happened in the past.
And using
tools, there are obviously some things in history we are more or less confident
but
about.
we're limited, right?
Obviously the further back in time.
But we're limited. This is the point.
Well, of course,
Because
all knowledge is limited, though.
Excellent.
Even your belief in God is knowledge that you think you could be wrong about.
That's why we say we are faithful.
Okay.
So would you say you are faithful?
Depends what you mean by faith.
What do you
I
think
don't think it's similar. I don't think a belief in science is equate. It
I'm
should
not
be
saying that-
equated.
I'm so-
It should be equated with religious beliefs.
Sorry, let me just
Because-
expand. Yeah, I don't want to be pitted in a corner that I don't truly represent.
Okay.
I believe in science, but
Okay,
I
good
understand
for
it's
you.
the best. I believe it's the best work.
But do you? You believe in science?
Of course, I believe.
You believe in the conclusions that scientists have established with
I believe
with
in
evidence.
science in line with other knowledges, and the notice
Okay.
that one can override the other.
So do you accept that humans and chimps have share a common ancestor?
If we're looking at a natural point of view, yes. In terms of religiously, theologically, no. Humans, I don't believe.
So, but
has
then
that.
it seems to me that you don't accept science.
Yes, this is what I was getting at. To a limited
Okay.
extent, I accept science. To
So-
another point, I said before, I was faithful, and this is why
Okay.
I said to Rob, 1 year I've not been here. I've said
Okay.
this to Rob. This is my admission from the beginning.
Right.
But the thing is, there's an atheistic bias which also makes them look at data and determine it as to be in favor of atheism, to a point that people believe that atheism is science and is synonymous when it's not true.
Well, there is a relationship because in science you use something called the null hypothesis. This is a founding technique in science. So what you do is, if I claim, that there are fairies at the bottom of the tree there, we use what's called the null hypothesis. I am going to not accept that as true. I'm going to compare it with the hypothesis that there are not fairies at the bottom of the tree. Okay, this is normal scientific procedure. So you start with what's called the null hypothesis. So if I hypothesize some phenomena that is, let's say not obviously observable, then we start with a null hypothesis and we compare it to the hypothesis, that there are fairies there. And if we don't see any fairies there, then we say the evidence supports the null hypothesis.
But,
Okay, so similarly, you take that and you apply it to God, and you say, okay, do we see evidence for God? No, that supports the null hypothesis, which is atheism. So there is a relationship between science and atheism. It's not like science establishes atheism. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying they're not
definitely
these separate.
blatantly not
I'm not
true.
saying these. What I'm saying is they're not completely separate.
Yeah, that's blatantly not true, because science was established by very religious people previously, historically, whether you call them deists, but there was a good contribution by the religious
I
body,
agree,
which
I
we know.
agree with that, of
Yeah,
course I
but
agree
now
with
people
that.
want to say religion is here and science is there, which is dishonest and distrue.
Well, is it because you just said that you don't agree with human and chimp evolution, and that is a broad consensus among science, and you're saying you don't agree with it. So that seems to me support to the hypothesis that there is a conflict between science and religion.
In aspects, 100%. This is why I'd say that I'm
Okay.
faithful,
Okay.
as in I believe, because
Sure.
we've got other methods of determining truth, like the
Okay.
basis of science is what? Mathematics. Yes, that's one of the bases.
that's
A
one-
region,
it's
really,
one-
reason.
it's
I'll
one
give you
thing
more.
that science-
Reason, logic, even
Well,
other
you've forgotten the
science.
most important one, which is observations.
Yeah, I agree, but the thing is, with scientism, it's the dogmatic view that all observable things can be reduced. So all things of science can be reduced to that which is observable. The things
I don't
which
think
that's what the
quite right.
definition. Karl Popper said that.
No, I don't think that's right.
Of what?
I don't think that's right. Can you give me the quote?
Scientism.
Can you give me the
Yeah,
quote?
sure,
from
sure,
Popper?
yeah, sure. Scientism, not science.
disagree with Popper very.
But you
disagree with evolution.
Yeah, and you're saying, Hamza,
I don't say-
Hamza, let's just get it straight. You do not accept the scientific consensus on evolution, on human evolution,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
All right, and then you tell me that it's dishonest for people to point out a conflict between science and
What I'm
religion.
saying is hypocrisy, that one sense that you as an atheist see language in DNA, in physics, and you see this artistry everywhere. Many scientists have spoken about this.
Yes.
But then you go to the lay crowd like Richard Dawkins does. In his academic work is very different to his published commercial work, as you know. Why this
Yes.
why this kind of change of behavior, this hypocrisy?
Well, because
There's a
what
certain- let me
okay,
finish
okay.
the point. Let me
Right,
finish the
sure.
point. There's a certain kind of presentation here and a different one there. Why is it? This is why I call as in hypocrite.
I don't think there's anything.
I don't say that.
Okay, I don't see, like Dawkins, for example, he studied animal behaviour. That was his field. Okay, the study of animal behaviour is very much about evolution, seeing it in an evolutionary context. Okay, so I don't see there's anything dishonest or hypocritical about him writing books about evolution.
No, that's not what I
because he
said.
studied animal behaviour. I mean,
That's
so
not
what?
what I said. Don't. I'm sure
That is what you said. You said
no,
it was
that's
hypocritical.
Not, no,
of
I'm
him
saying it's
to
hypocritical.
have two different things.
Two different presentations. This is why I
But
said.
how is it hypocritical?
Yeah, sure. As in when you yourself know that the nuances of the discussion is much more complex. And then, for example, me as a theist, I do the same thing. As in, I know it's more complex than it is, and then I present to you it's black and white. That's why I call it as in hypocritical.
So, what are you saying? Give me an example. Give me a specific example.
Let me make the point. That what happens with atheists is that they say we are with science, and you religious people are against science, and historically that's never been true. And that's why I asked you these questions.
Okay.
Could you clarify if science, one, can explain if there is no God? That's the first question. I asked if science is synonymous. Well, I never asked it. I implied
to ask someone to disprove something.
Okay.
I just look, brother, no offense. You know what it is? It's difficult for me. It's difficult for me to speak to one, two,
So how can you explain the fact that you don't believe in evolution?
Okay. Can we make this point?
The second point here was that as in, sorry, the third point. I mentioned the first and the second and the third. Like, there is some kind of bias there, you know, when it comes to just certain ideology.
But now you contradicted yourself. You're saying there's a bias in science that's towards atheism, but you're also saying there are scientists who are religious.
Yes.
Do you not see a contradiction there?
No. If you ask me to expand that, expand. Historically, most scientists are the ones that have been pivotal in the transformation of scientists have come from which, like as in the theist field or the atheist field? It's the theist field. Modern day scientists with the advent of Richard Dawkins and the very, with the very anti-theist kind of militant atheism, is what they call it, tried to pit religion here and science there.
Okay.
Now this is why I say it's dishonest. They always try to make...
Well, I don't... Okay, let me just respond to that, because I don't think it is dishonest, because you've clearly... I don't think... Right, so to say there's a conflict between science and religion is not to deny that there are lots of religious scientists. There clearly were, and there still are. Now, the fact that there were, it's certainly true, I think, in the past, scientists were mostly religious. But let's not forget that it was illegal not to be religious. You could be killed if you were not religious. So clearly, right, there's a pressure for people to be religious. As people got more scientific knowledge, in particular after Darwin, right, the scientists became less religious. And what you see in surveys is that scientists are less religious than the general population. That's an observable fact as far as I'm concerned. Okay? Now, the conflict between science and religion is there's a clear conflict. I'm not saying all scientists are atheists and you can't be a scientist if you're religious. Of course you can, right? And there are lots of religious scientists who basically take a very liberal approach to their religious texts. So they say, oh no, it's all a metaphor. However, there's a lot of religious people that say, no, these texts have to be interpreted literally, okay? And the fact that you are opposed to evolution, and the fact that if you look at surveys of people who are opposed to evolution, you see a clear correlation between religiosity and their support for the science of evolution. Now you're trying to say that there's some dishonesty about people claiming that there's a conflict between science and religion, and I think the fact that you don't support the science of evolution is clear evidence that there is a conflict between science and religion. Now I'm not saying, let me finish. I'm not saying that all religious people are opposed to science, okay? And that you can't be a scientist if you're religious. Of course you can, right? But that's not to deny that there is a clear conflict between the two schools of thought.
There are certain aspects which won't be mentioned by science in terms of religious texts. This is something I said before. I've said this in previous videos. Right. So it's you can't pit me on that side. I believe there's other knowledges, other disciplines, like the basis of science is what. know? Rationalism, reasoning, and you
And
can't use science.
observation. Empiricism. Yeah, but I think that's number one.
But you can't use science to prove reason, can you?
Well, it depends what you mean by
it's impossible
science.
because it's a circular argument. The basis of science is
Okay,
reason.
I'm not sure why that's relevant to our discussion.
You're
The
saying-
part discussion is there a conflict between science and religion?
Reconcile the conflict.
Right?
Sorry, brother, I don't mean to be rude. It's so hard to focus on him at the same time while you're speaking over him. He's very good. This guy, he writes books on science. In my admission,
I haven't written any books on science.
articles.
Yeah, I have written some articles.
Yeah, and he does videos. So this is my admission from the beginning. This is a scientist. I, as a non-scientist,
I'm not a professional scientist. I make videos with professional scientists, and
just go along with it. Just go along with it. I'm giving you credit.
Well,
well-read compared to everybody else.
I'm well informed.
Yeah, you're well informed in the subject. So this was my mission in previous videos, and everyone knows that I maintain that we are faithful people.
Okay.
We don't say 100% science, but we acknowledge there are other disciplines like philosophy.
I agree there are other disciplines,
that's what,
and I
there
don't
is
want
no,
to degenerate that.
This is the thing. Now, the only thing I've said that there's a certain level of biasness in statements that are made by atheists. When we saw Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, Dan Dennett, and the likes thereof, they came with a very kind of vitriolic rhetoric that is science is here, and that's why people fell out of love with the Four Horsemen, apocalyptic kind of imagery that these guys who you know about were about. People fell in love because you're just dishonest, if you may.
Where is it dishonest?
Where is it?
Because they were pointing out, as far as I understand what they were saying, I mean, they have to speak for themselves. I don't speak for them, okay? And they don't speak for me. But as I understand it, right, their point was there is clear opposition to well-established science, and that opposition is mainly driven by religious belief. So what is dishonest about that?
But as I mentioned in this whole conversation...
Well, first off, let's just establish, do you agree that that is true or false?
Sorry, repeat the question and then ask me.
The statement is that the opposition to well-established science of evolution and the age of the earth, I mean, I know this isn't really an issue for Muslims, but in America, something like, I don't know what the percentage, a very high percentage of people think the universe, and I met someone here today, thinks the whole universe is 6,000 years old.
The
right?
biblical narrative.
Okay, so there's an opposition to established science that comes from religiously motivated people. Okay, so the low acceptance of evolutionary science, for example, tends to be correlated with high levels of religiosity. So do you think that statement, that there's this correlation between opposition to evolution and religiosity is true or false? Do you think it's true or false?
Yeah, there's a certain level degree of yes and no in that question.
Well, go on, elaborate.
Yeah, sure. Now, the Christian community is not no one who's arguing against science or the concept of a 5,000-year-old Earth. These are actually academic guys. Now, I don't agree with them, as you know. I'm not Christian. But to say that they come with no evidence is not fully true. They come with evidence. It may be weak in your opinion. For them, it's strong. Yes?
Okay, I didn't really say they came from areas. What I said was there is a correlation, a relationship, I should say.
You're saying they don't use science, but they are using
No.
That's what I'm trying to say.
What I said was that there is an established field of science, okay, evolutionary biology, the idea of common descent, that the origin of human beings is through descent with modification, right? Okay. Now there is a large body of opposition to that established science, okay, that is motivated by religion, i.e., the more religious you are, the less likely you are to accept evolution. So that establishes what people like Dawkins right.
I've agreed to this point.
Okay, so you agree with that?
Quite some time ago.
Okay, so you agree with that?
Yes.
So what was dishonest about what Dawkins was saying?
What is not Dawkins just as a body, as in they try to pit believers here and science there. This is what I've been trying to say.
Right.
They deny the whole history of science.
Who's denying the whole history of science?
In terms of religiosity.
But no, I don't know anyone.
No.
Name me one person that would deny that. Okay.
Okay, the whole rhetoric that they use, that religion is evil, you know, that believers are stupid. I've heard plenty of times from Christopher Hitchens. You can't deny it. In fact, the condescending value that the rhetoric that is used by Dawkins is visible to anyone with an ounce of intellect that he's trying to say that being a believer you cannot have science, which is dishonest.
I don't think he's ever said that. But, I mean, he has to speak for himself. I can't. I don't know everything he said.
Let's agree. I said Christopher Hitchens.
But I don't think.
Have you heard Christopher Hitchens say that?
Well, I've heard him speak.
He's been very
I haven't heard him.
very
Okay, well, let's be clear. No, you're confusing two different issues.
This is what my point was.
Okay.
I don't want to be caught in this corner where you're misrepresenting me. I want to make clear it's hard.
Okay. So I don't think saying that you're against established science is to misrepresent you, because you do oppose the science of evolution.
Yes,
so it's
I
not
don't
misrepresenting you to say we've got science over here and religion over here.
There's absolute statements and non-absolute statements which you're aware of.
I granted.
When you say that in an absolute sense that science and here, this is dishonest, yes or no?
I never said it was absolute. What I said, let's just clarify.
Look, I don't want this to become a debate. I hate the way, even your tone and my tone. Let's take it. My point is that is dishonest. If that wasn't clear before, I've made it clear. Do you understand that?
Okay, let me try and clarify. What I would agree with you is dishonest to say, if someone were to say, if you're religious, you are stupid. That is wrong. If someone says, okay, hang on, that's not what I
never said that.
Okay,
I said you're a nice
hang on, right? If someone was to say, if you're religious, you can't be a good scientist, that's wrong, and I would disagree with that 100%.
Believe that spaghetti, let me say it the way it's said. You believe the spaghetti monster created life. It's simple. I'm English, and I'm telling you seriously that our science, as an English guy, is materialistic, and it does focus on the atheistic, Gnostic interpretation from Copernicus downwards. It does represent and say, oh, we acknowledge some things from the beginning and from the past and stuff. But paradigm definitely from schools and colleges and in what we see on TV is real science started from Copernicus. That's known. That's known. That's not a debate.
I'm not sure what that point.
Most thing is, what happens in these discussions, is that I don't know much of what you stand for. You don't know much.
Okay,
of what I
so let me just clarify, because I was interrupted. But let me just clarify what I want to say. Okay, I agree. You can be religious and smart. You can be religious and a great scientist. No question. But there is a relationship between the levels of religiosity and the denial of certain scientific established facts. Okay, so there is clear evidence that the more religious a person is, the more likely they are to oppose certain established scientific things.
Is that certain religions?
For example, the more religious you are, the less likely you are to believe in evolution. The more Christian you are, the less likely you are to accept the age of the earth.
I believe that.
I know. I'm just saying there's this relationship.
And I agree.
And I'm not saying it's an absolute.
For some people, but not everywhere.
Not everyone, but it's a non-trivial.
Atheists do the same thing. Phil, atheists do the same.
Content over everything. From your humanity. Man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to.
But to be a Christian is not simply to have an acknowledgement of a once glorious Christian past. It isn't enough to simply say, I have Christian values, when in reality, you have not taken those Christian values seriously. And what I want to look at is one of the traits of what it is to be truly a Christian. If